I bought every single memory card that the Sony A7 IV can use and tested every single video mode, including S&Q, to help you decide which card speed you need depending on how you want to shoot video. The Sony A7 IV accepts V30, 60, and V90 cards in both its dual slots, but can also take the insanely fast CFExpress Type A cards in its top slot. The V30s are extremely cheap. You can find some for as low as $30 US and work for a surprisingly large selection of video modes, while the CFExpress Type A cards cost up to $400, are one of the most expensive memory cards I've ever seen, and it unlocks a very small portion of what the Sony A7 IV offers, and honestly may not even be necessary. Either way, I'll have links in the description to whichever card you choose. Here is a table for the regular movie modes of all the codecs, bit rates, frame rates, and memory card combinations that are possible on the Sony A7 IV. These are the 5 codecs that you can choose, along with the bit depth and chroma subsampling options within each codec. Then here are the available frame rates and the corresponding bit rates for each frame rate and bit depth combination. Also for reference, at the bottom I've listed what the max write speeds each memory card should be capable of sustaining. In each section, I list which memory card successfully recorded in that specific mode that I marked in green, while red means it would not record. As you can see, V30 cards work for a majority of regular movie combinations, and probably should work for a few more. A V30 card can sustain 240 megabits per second, and a V60 card twice that. XAVC SI 1080 maxes out at 222 megabits per second for 60 FPS. Yet for some reason, both the V30 and the V60 cards won't record in that mode. In addition, the V60 card should be able to handle 24 and 30 FPS in SI 4K. For regular movie modes, a V90 card is all you need to unlock everything, and they are significantly cheaper than a CFExpress Type A card. Moving on to S&Q mode. This is by far the most backwards mode as far as what memory cards will work with which setting. When you're in time-lapse mode, the bit rates are insanely low, like single-digit low, and they still won't work with cards that are hundreds of times faster than the required bit rate. It's worth noting that the Sony A7 IV doesn't actually list the true bit rate for each mode in S&Q. You have to either divide or multiply the listed bitrate by how much the footage is being sped up or slowed down. For instance, the listed bitrate for XAVC HS 4K is the same as the regular movie mode, 100 megabits per second. But when you are only taking 1 frame per second on a 24 FPS timeline, the footage is sped up 24 times. So you have to divide 100 by 24 to give you a bitrate of 4 megabits per second. Conversely, for a slow motion shot of 60 FPS slowed down to 24, you'd multiply 100 by 2.5 to get you the true bitrate of 250 megabits per second. This S&Q table is similar to the first one, but it has a few more frame rate options. This is specific to a 24 FPS output, and I've listed all the possible recording frame rates from 1 to 120 frames per second. These frame rates equate to the footage being sped up 24 times or slowed down by 5 times, which I listed below each frame rate. As a note, I didn't include a column for CFExpress Type A cards because this table is already too wide, and given its max sustained bitrate of 3200 megabits per second, it very easily handles all the modes the Sony A7 IV has. Looking at the results, it's once again very strange that a V30 card will not work for any of the S&Q modes besides XAVC 1080, even though lots of them only record single or double-digit bit rates, and a V30 card should be able to record anything below 240 megabits per second. The V60 cards work for most of the HS and S video modes, but not for any of the SI codecs, even though once again it should for all the time-lapse modes and a couple of the slow motion modes as well. The V60 card is probably the card I would recommend the least because there's a good chunk of modes that it won't work with, and for not much more you can buy a V90 card, which as you can see unlocks everything the Sony A7 IV can shoot, with the exception of just one mode, which is SI 4K at 60 FPS. But if you recall, this frame rate codec combination works in regular movie mode. Both of them are 600 megabits per second, but for some reason it won't work in S&Q. So really, a CFExpress Type A card doesn't even get you any shooting modes that the V90 can't already record. So now that you know which memory cards are required for which video mode, all you have to decide on is which video modes you need. I made a separate video linked here and down below of what the differences are between each of these codecs and why you might want to choose one over the other. And once again, I'll have links to all the memory cards in the description. If you have any questions, comment below, and if you're feeling generous, tapping that like button really helps me out. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care.